like a hoop through man translation, bridge the gap, communication so real, no cap, a different language for woman and man, decode the language and you'll understand. Nah, it'll help you out, rest assured women have no doubt. Pillow talk, dinner talk, give you the info to walk the walk. Now, sometimes it's a foreign language, now know what's up, don't mistake it. This'll help you every situation, empower yourself, it's liberating, yeah. Communication, don't need no speculation, just get that clarification, then reconciliation. Man translation, yeah, man translation,
Yes, what's going on? Welcome to another Sunday of Man Translation, where we're going to chop it up like sushi. I like that line. So listen, I am Scott C. This is Man Translation, where we talk about everything. We talk about relationships in all of their glory. I want to put a disclaimer on the show and let you know that I am not a therapist, and I don't put myself out there to be a therapist. I come here to share my experiences and my life lessons so that I can bridge the gap between men and women so that we can have better communication. Because as a whole and as a culture, we're not going to have successful families, businesses, anything where relationships are involved. We're just not going to have it because we have to understand that our communication styles are just not the same. And it is the source of a lot of miscommunication. And so today, I want to talk about brokenness when two halves don't make a whole. And the reason why I want to talk about this show is because the very things that make a relationship work and make a relationship healthy, we seem to be very void of. I don't really see a whole lot of it. So let me give you a little background on me. I have been in ministry over 20 years. And what does ministry mean? Ministry is a ministry of helps, where you help people through spirituality, through prayer. And through that prayer comes deliverance and healing. And that can show up in a lot of different ways. So as I grew in my ministry, I wanted to marry the spiritual side with the medical side. So I started to study as if I was a clinical psychologist. And so, because in medicine, they see the symptoms, and spiritual, we see the root. And so I love to get to the root of issues. And a lot of times, most of the time, the root is in a dark place. And so it's not visible. By the time the root takes place and it grows out, that's when, doctors and all of that can see it when they're asking you what your symptoms are. But if you could catch it at the root, it won't never have to grow. It won't never have to manifest. So anytime a seed is planted, whether it's a seed of words or a seed of, the thoughts that you're thinking, it's always going to be buried deep in a dark place. And so you have those people that either can see in the dark or know how to dig to get this stuff up. I remember when I bought my house, I had this beautiful bush that I called the burning bush in front of my house. But there was some weeds around it that made it look like it was really interfering. And I really wanted to kill the weeds, but I wanted to keep the bush. So I went and bought some weed killer. But the weed killer, not only did it kill the weeds, but it got down to the root and it killed the bush too. And so it's a very delicate operation when we are dealing with the things that break us. And so when something is in social media and it's like blasting, it gets my attention because I feel like nothing is by coincidence, and God is trying to get your attention and he's trying to say something to you. And you're not paying attention, to it. So it just ends up all over social media, and then you just be like, why? Like, what is the big deal? Like, what is the root? And that's what I did. I said, God, what is the root of this situation with this couple that's been all over everywhere? And y'all know who I'm talking about. And so at the root of it is brokenness. And I said, you know what? I come on this show and I talk about this in different forms, in different fashion. I've discussed it with different people that come on and weigh in. We're all talking about the very same thing, brokenness. When people are broken and they come together and think that they can work it all out in the relationship. No, you can't. This is the only time where two halves don't make a whole. And so I really want to get this really tie everything all together. And I always use myself as an example because I can only talk about me. So I'm not trying to get anybody. I don't need a co-signer. I don't need anybody to agree. I want you to weigh in on your perspective because your experience is going to be different from my experience. But the lesson I learned can't nobody take away from me. And can't nobody really take away my experience. And so, when I got married, and I am going to write a memoir. I was going to do it in my 20s, but I think I was too young. I don't think I lived enough, even though I had been through a lot. When I got married, I never dealt with my childhood traumas. I just went right from home, right to marriage. And so you don't realize that you're broken. You don't realize that you have to deal with those childhood traumas. You have to deal with that. You don't even you don't have a name for all the stuff that you see today. A friend of mine had a book signing, and I went to support her in her book signing, and met a lot of people. But I met this guy from Ireland, and he has PTSD, and he was telling me how all the therapists that he's been to, and how it's very difficult for him. He has flashbacks because he grew up seeing just people, death all around him. He had to carry, dead bodies and seeing children being decapitated. I was like, oh my God, I cannot even imagine having to fight those type of thoughts, coming into, your brain, and you trying to control it and you really don't know how. That's enough really to drive you crazy. So as I was listening to him and listening, he was like, that's why I keep myself busy. I'm thinking, like, how does this really tie? Because people have PTSD as well. People enter into relationships, they have PTSD, they have insecurities, anxiety, they have just like all of these negative things that they bring and they dump on another human being. And so this Will and Jada thing is something that I listen to on a regular basis. How people come to the realization, because you're going to hit a brick in the wall, because that's what you're really doing. You're really building a wall by not dealing with these traumas. And so I was telling him, I talk about these traumas all the time, and I talk about how they showed up in my life, how I overcame them, and what lesson I learned as a result of that. Because you carry this stuff with you, and it affects your behaviors. It affects the way you communicate. It affects the way you carry yourself. It affects all those different areas. I have not seen a relationship survive brokenness. I have never seen two people come together in brokenness and it worked out fine. All I see is broken people coming together and disaster happens. And so I'm not sure if I'm not explaining myself well enough, but this is the main area that brokenness affects is communication, because it affects the way you perceive, because your perception is already skewed as it is. And the reason that it's skewed is because it's based on your experiences, your past, the way you've been shaped, You know what I'm saying? It affects your personality. What is your personality? Your personal reality. And so it is important, and I can't stress enough. I cannot stress enough. You need to do the work before you enter into a long term relationship, before you enter into a marriage. You need to deal with your unresolved trauma because it shows up, and it shows up sometimes in inopportune times. Because what happens is you have trauma responses and you don't even realize. Y'all call them triggers. I call them trauma responses. Trauma responses and triggers are pretty much on the same even kill, because somebody say something, it pushes a button and you react to it. And so why? You're like, you never question yourself and say, well, why did I react that way? Like, why does that bother me? And that's what I was saying in this situation. I was like, why does I don't even know these people. Why is this bothering me so much? And I think the reason that it bothered me was, you people want to be in these healthy relationships, and you got value, and a high value man and a high value woman, and you want to be in a relationship, but you ain't showing no compassion. I ain't hear no compassion where this woman was concerned. I didn't hear any empathy where she was concerned. I didn't. Just shut up. Just shut up. Every time in the Bible when Jesus healed anybody, he told them to go tell your story. I did not start telling my story until a couple of years ago, because I had to go through the healing process. And I come on here and I share with you my experiences and the lessons that I have learned as a result of those experiences. Go tell your story, because we overcome by the word of our testimony. Your testimony is your story. So when you tell your story, we overcome. That means when I tell it, I get free. And when you hear it, you get free. And so it's important for you to tell your story, because your story is going to help someone. I have never in my life seen, I mean, you talking about some triggers. People have been triggered. Now it's really interesting how the man will come out, tell his story, do the same thing, write his memoirs, come out, go on a book tour, tell his story. Oh, it's the most wonderful thing in the world. Soon as the woman comes out, and tells her story, shut up, shut up, you lying, you talking too much. How can you say somebody lying? You wasn't even there. How do you know? You wasn't there. You wasn't not there. You cannot take one perspective and make that the whole truth. You need more than one perspective. There's no way you could go and somebody commit a crime. They got to prove the crime was committed. They got to go and they got to investigate. They got to, discover. They have to ask the right questions. Like, it is a whole process in getting the truth. You're not going to get truth by sound bites, because that's all it is, a bunch of sound bites. And everybody is jumping on the bandwagon of negativity. Oh, I'm tired of her. Why don't she just shut up? But yet, these are the same people that wonder why your relationships don't work. Your relationships don't work because you show no compassion. Your relationships don't work because you don't have the ingredients that it takes. You don't have the patience. You can't even listen to somebody's story and try to find compassion and understanding and, sympathy, empathy, apathy, something. You just throwing stones. Shut up. She's lying. No, I went through the same thing. I went to her book signing yesterday. Got there early, of course. I'm sitting outside and I'm talking to, it was about 6 of us that was early. And I'm sharing with them all the levels that I connect with this story. I connect on so many levels with this story because I've been through the same thing. I've been through the exact same thing. The only difference between she's a celebrity and I'm not discovered yet as a celebrity. And so they was like, man, so after it was over, the people that I was talking to before we went in, they came and found me. This lady, she said, everything you said. She sat up on that stage and said it. I said, because I've been through it. I've been through the exact same thing. She said, you called it down to, I think she shared some story. I said, yeah, because I've been through it. It's been my experience. I haven't just been on a platform that big to just really share it. So that's why I have compassion. And that's why I have empathy and I have understanding. And I said, even if you don't agree with someone, you don't have to be nasty about it. The words that's being said, I mean, is downright nasty. You even just mention this woman's name, and people just automatically triggered. I done seen so many ugly demons come out of people when you mention this woman's name. It's more to it's got to be more to. There is no way this many people can get upset when somebody is telling a lie. People only get this upset when the person is telling the truth. And it's making you look at yourself. It's making you, because people don't want to do the work. It takes courage to look at yourself and then do the work by yourself. You can't do the work in a relationship. That's why it's so messy. That's why it's ugly. That's why it looked the way it do, because they didn't realize that they were broken until after they got married. Because why? Because two halves don't make a whole. Two halves does not make a whole in a relationship when you're broken. And some people are more than broken. Some people are shattered. What's the difference between brokenness? I could drop a cup and it'll break in two. I could go get the little crazy glue, glue it back together, get some, get the kind of glue that leak proof, and I might not be able to drink out the cup, but I will be able to put it up there on the shelf and look at it with the brokenness. But when you're shattered, that means you've been broken over and over and over and over again. And you're going to take your shattered, broken self and connect yourself to somebody else's life and say you're going to work it out after the fact. How selfish is that? And how destructive can that be? Last week, I talked to you guys about how God taught me how to vet relationships, because I move very differently when it comes to relationships. But I understand from my own personal experience that you got to work out those unresolved traumas. You have to work that stuff out, because people are resentful. They're in relationships. They're unhappy. They are just, and then they don't understand why. They don't understand, oh, they may have a great job. They may have money in the bank. They might be living in a nice house. They might, be driving a nice whip. But guess what? Don't none of that stuff make you happy. And it's not going to make the trauma go away. So childhood trauma is unresolved trauma from your childhood, and it affects your emotional well-being, which is the reason why people's emotional intelligence is zero. Zero. They have just no emotional intelligence whatsoever, cannot handle anything. Everything bothers them. Everything gets on their nerves. They don't have any patience. How are you going to have a healthy relationships? You don't even have no patience. You don't have patience. You have to have patience. You have to give grace. I don't see this woman getting any grace. I don't see the woman getting no mercy. Oh, she just evil. She's just evil. Really? You know this to be true? You know this from a soundbite? You know that? Most of the people never even read the book, jumping all to conclusions and assumptions. This is how misunderstandings happen. This is how confusion gets started. You ain't even read the book. You automatically done put the child in a lot. You just tell them to lie. How do you come to these conclusions when you don't know the whole story? They have to get a jury of your peers. They got to go find witnesses. Why? What is the goal? The goal should always be to get the truth. And in order to do that, you got to talk to a few people. And it will help to talk to the person, get it straight from the horse's mouth. You see? But no, can't do that. Why? Because you don't know the person. And so I'm just like, why do we do that to each other? You have unresolved trauma and you're young. What did I say the other day? 20 to 30, that's the golden era where you need to get to know yourself. You need to get to find out what your purpose is. What is your mandate? What's your call? What's your gifts? What are your talents? What is your destiny? What is your purpose? Why are you here? Why are you here? What are you supposed to be doing? Making everybody else miserable because you miserable? And it's just like, this is why relationships fail and continue to fail, and marriages fail, because you jump to conclusions, you make assumptions, don't know how to listen. You don't know how to listen at all. And people share with you their experiences, and you're going to tell them what they should be experiencing. My experiences are my experiences. I don't need your agreement. I don't need your disagreement. I don't need your approval. I don't need your disapproval. I'm going to share my story regardless, because that's what I've been told to do. And so if it's not helping you, scroll on. It will help someone else. Let me put another disclaimer. I do like people. I talked about the different kinds of relationships. All y'all know is romantic sexual relationships. That's all people seem to know. There is more than one kind of relationship, and there are 7 different kinds of relationships and 7 different kinds of love. All y'all know is Eros love, which is romantic and sexual relationships. You don't even know that you can have a connection with someone and not even be attracted to them, have no desire to sleep with them whatsoever. Ask me how I know, because I have a friend just like that. We are platonic. It doesn't matter whether he waiting for opportunity or not. Don't matter. We are platonic friends, period. And I've been knowing him over 30 years. Over 30 years. And so it just proves what I come here and I talk about every single Sunday, how important it is for you by yourself, all by yourself, not messing up nobody else's life, not dragging nobody else along with you in the journey of your healing. That is something you have to do with God by yourself and not involve another person. Point blank and period. All of this coming in to, like, people be going at each other's throats. To me, is more deadly. It's way more deadly, because when you're in close proximity with people, you gonna get triggered on a regular basis. Who wants to be in a relationship that you constantly dealing with problems? Either if we ain't dealing with your issues, we're dealing with mine. That's called dysfunction. That's dysfunction. What is dysfunction? That means it's not working the way it's supposed to work. And so what happens? The dysfunction becomes normal. And now you think that all relationships supposed to be that way, when all relationships are not supposed to be that way. So your childhood trauma can erode your ability to trust other people. When you experience betrayal and neglect and abuse during those formative years, you carry that. You carry that with you. You carry it. I did not realize that I carried that. I went straight from a dysfunctional family straight into marriage, and didn't even realize that I even had to deal with any of that stuff until I was by myself, until I was divorced and by myself. And now I can really take a good hard look at myself, because you know what people do? They don't want to deal with the conflict, so they hide in relationships. So they go from broken relationship to broken relationship to broken relationship, because they don't want to face themselves. They don't want to deal with themselves. They don't want to do the work, because by this time it's a lot. And it's a lot to put on another person. It's a lot to ask somebody to walk you through your issues that you obtained before they ever even knew you. So now I'm your therapist now? No, I'm not your therapist. You better go to therapy. You better go get Jesus. No, I am not going to. I got my own issues to deal with. I'm not going to deal with my issues and your issues too. No, no, no. That's not my job. And that's what people do. They expect for somebody else, they dump all of that stuff in a relationship on somebody else's shoulders. And what happens? You trauma bond, because all you talk about is your traumas. You get together and all you talk about is your traumas. That's all you talk about. That's how people trauma bond. Why? Because it's eating away at you, it's bothering you, and you're not dealing with it. You're not asking yourself, you're not questioning yourself. You're not saying, well, man, well, why did I react like that? Why did that bother me so much? Because I was like, God, why I don't even know this woman? Like, why is this bothering me? Why? Because I don't see any because when you are in that situation, when you're a type of person, and I shared this before, when you're a type of person that's a free spirit, you don't want to be married. And you become an anomaly just on the strength that you just made that statement. People gonna look at you crazy already. What you mean? What do you mean? And then I have pastor friends who are always trying to marry me off, but that's what pastors do, because pastors are very resourceful people, and they know all the single men that want to be married, and they know all the single women, and they just be in there matchmaking people up. No, don't come up here with that, because that's not part of your pastoral duties. Okay. So pastors are always trying to marry people off, okay? Especially if they like you, they know your personality, they know that you would make a great wife. Oh yeah, they're gonna try to hook you up. No, 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 not your job. Keep it pushing. And I want people to understand that it just seems like we live in a society where they think that everybody is like, that's the goal, like that's the ultimate goal in life. That is the be all. To I was put on this earth to be married. Where did y'all get that from? Who told y'all that? You make a choice whether you want to be single or whether you want to be married. And either way, we respect whatever your choice is. Whatever that choice is, you respect it. If God respects it, because He's gonna bless you if you decide to be single, and He's gonna bless you if you decide to be married. We're not bashing you because you want to be married. Why bash us? Because we want to be single. Just because the majority of women want to be single, I mean want to be married, and then you meet somebody that say they don't. Oh, you lying. Oh, somebody must have hurt you. Oh, you must like women. Oh, you must self. I mean, just cannot. I mean, the level of narrow-mindedness is beyond me. It's a choice, point blank. And so I think that's all part of the trauma too, is that you know people are living so much on external validation, they just cannot fathom in their mind that I got to be by myself. And I can, and then when they do get in a relationship, they like Siamese twins. They got to go everywhere together. They got to talk on the phone every day or every other day. What? No, we're not doing all that. So that's why I probably come across like I don't like people. No, I don't come across. I do not like people. I like my freedom. Parental issues. Addressing unresolved issues related to one's relationship with their parents, whether it's mommy issues or daddy issues or both, is critical for a healthy relationship. Baby, people got mommy issues, people got daddy issues, and they take all of that. Normally, what happens is when you have mommy issues, when a man has mommy issues, what he will normally do, if he has not dealt with those mommy issues, what he's going to do is once he gets into a relationship, he's going to turn the woman into his mommy. And if he has resentment against his mother, he's going to take it out on her. Whatever it is he feels about his mother, it's going to be displaced right to the person that he's in a relationship with. And I see this all the time. They're going to turn you right into, I have two sons. I raised them to be independent. I raised them to learn how to cook for themselves and do all the things that they need to do to be able to take care of themselves so they won't have to depend on a woman or anybody else for any of those things. You don't have to, get in a relationship because you want somebody to cook for you and clean for you and take your clothes to the cleaners and rub your back and all of that. No, I taught them to be independent. Now, if you meet somebody and they happen to want to do those things, hey, that's between y'all. But it's not because you don't know how to go in that kitchen and whip you up something for yourself. Basically, is my point. But I see this all the time. And then you have daddy issues. Most of the time, when you're dealing with daddy issues, is because it's abandonment. A lot of people deal with abandonment. I remember when I used to be on my way to work, and I used to always go down the street where the prostitutes hung out. And I would start, ministering to them and praying with them. And one of the things that I found as I prayed with them over the years is that they had daddy issues. They had abandonment issues. And they ended up in prostitution because they were looking for validation from men because they never got that validation from their fathers. See, it's going to manifest in your life some negative way because a seed has been planted and you don't see it. Seeds are not planted on top of the earth. They have to go deep in the dark places. And when I come on here, that's what I do. I go in the dark places, the places that y'all don't want to go in, the places that I had to go in for my own life, into the dark places of my life. And I had to ask myself the hard questions. And God did not allow me to start sharing my story until I went through the healing process. And when you write a book, the book digs into you. It's going to bring things up that you forgot about. And for me to recall things is pretty easy because I journal. But my journal is more like I'm recording. So when I read my journals, a lot of them I've thrown away now because I was like, okay, I done graduated from this. I still journal, but I do it in a different way. My journals are more like I'm recording something. So I will say something to the effect of today, on whatever day it was, I put the date. I'll always say what I was wearing. I always say what I ate, whatever I ate that day. And I always, like, if I had an interaction with someone, I'll say what I said. I'll say what they said. So my journal really reads like a movie, really. I remember one year I went through the year. I was reading my journal. I said, if this ain't a horror movie, thriller, comedy, what is this? Burn it. And so I really record. And if somebody say, "Oh yeah, you said da 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 da," I'll be like, "Well, what year was that? And what was that?" And I go right to my journal. I'll be like, "Oh, that's why when you hear me say I gave my life to the Lord September 21st, 1992, 6:59 p.m. I can tell you what I ate that day. I can tell you what I was wearing that day. I can tell you what conversation I had that day. I can tell you what I said. I can tell you what they said because I pretty much record whatever's going on in my life. So I don't really do commentary. Most of the time when people do a journal. They kind of journal about how they were feeling. Oh, today was a gloomy day. I was depressed because my boyfriend didn't call me. No, that's not how my journal goes. So I normally record whatever happened in my day. Really kind of very objective. Like I step outside of myself and I'm looking at myself and I'm writing it down in the journal. That's kind of like what it feels like when I read. I'm like, this is my life. Oh my God. And I'll be like, I remember that day. I remember that day so clear. Yeah, I remember that day. And so it's important for you to, if you journal, to go and start to really, because it also teaches you how to know yourself. You get to see patterns. Your journal, if you keep it correctly, you get to see patterns in your life. You get to see certain behaviors. Sometimes I do kind of put down what I felt about a certain thing that was happening in that particular time. um like I've noticed the places that brought me the most joy. When I went to the library, that brought me joy. When I was reading a book, that brought me joy. My teachers, that's why I remember my teachers so vividly, because I wrote about them in my journal every day. Oh, Miss Asbury, she wore so and so to school today, and her hair was whatever, whatever today. So those are the things that like bring me joy. So you really learn a lot about yourself when you keep, a journal. But it also allows you to see your patterns. It allows you to see your behaviors. It allows you to see yourself in a very objective manner if you record it in a certain way. And so those mommy and those daddy issues are very crucial, because abandonment is one of those things that's tied into the work on your or building your self-worth. When you're dealing with self-worth issues, it's because you didn't feel, and it's really interesting that she calls her book worthy, because it deals with abandonment. I don't think that people understand that at the roots of of abandonment fears is your self-worth. Is how you feel about yourself. But the thing that I found was that, and how I had to make the switch in my life, and what brought me joy, was when I switched from anything external. I totally got rid of all external. I got rid of what your opinion is of me. I got rid of what you think of me. I got rid of any way you try to make me feel. And it wasn't really just me taking back my power. It was me becoming aware that, I think that, when I dealt with infidelity probably the second time, and I just, at this point, you can't hurt me anymore because you didn't already did that the first time. So you ain't gonna be able to repeat the second time. And I remember just sitting back like I was watching a movie. I'm telling you, like I was just sitting back watching, and I was watching his patterns, and I was watching his behaviors. And I mean, it was like watching a crazy person. Just, he was just all over the place. He was just weaving a smear campaign, making me out to be the worst person on the planet. And I remember looking, just looking at him. And I just remember thinking, he is intentionally trying to hurt me on purpose. It's not going to work. I was determined. It's not a second time. You got me the first time, but you ain't gonna get me a second time. And I remember that's when the switch happened. I said, I'm no longer going to concern myself with the opinions of other people. I was never a people pleaser anyway. I never was a people pleaser because I was never a follower. But I just knew, I just had an awareness or an awakening that you cannot allow what people think about you, the opinions that other people have about you, to really dictate how you move in life, because they will take that and use it against you. I did a show called When People Weaponize Your Love. You will give them your love and they will take your love and beat you to death with it. And so I will not allow you to weaponize anything pertaining to me, my well-being, the state of my brain, my mind, and everything. And I just remember just making a conscious decision that I'm not going to live an external life, that I'm going to live my life from the inside out. And because people can destroy you when you start worrying about what people think about you, and when you start worrying about people's opinions of you, and you start looking for validation from people, and you start looking for approval from people, it will have you twisted up and on a roller coaster and don't know whether you coming or whether you going. Should I do this? You will live a confused life every time you turn around, because it's going to attract more chaos, and you're going to be like, why bad things always happening to me? Bad things happening to you because you're thinking bad thoughts, and you're not taking control of those thoughts because you're allowing what other people saying about you to come into the inside of you. And I just remember that's when everything flipped. It all flipped. And I said, nope. Not only did I take back my power, and I said, I'm just not going to live my life this way. I was already halfway there because I grew up with a mother that always was trying to embarrass me. So I was already really kind of free of what people thought about me. I was already free of that anyway. But when you're married, what your partner thinks of you is important to you. You know, how your partner feels about you is important to you. And so what happened was I started to say, no, what I think about me is important to me. How I feel about me is important to me. And all of that tied itself into self-worth. And then when you start studying and spending time with God, He's going to tell you that you're priceless. When somebody tell you you're priceless, after that, can't nobody tell you nothing no more after that. I mean, you can't even put a price tag on me. You see what I'm saying? Hey, that your self-esteem goes, ooh, your faith goes, ooh, everything, your confidence goes, ooh. And that's what happened. It was like, all right, later for that, it was almost like God was just waiting for me to make that decision because my confidence went through the roof. And then I had a grandmother who always edified me. She always was telling me how smart I was and what I could accomplish and what I could do and everything. But she always, when I needed to be corrected, she was there to correct when I needed, you know what I mean, to get instruction. So it was just a really balanced relationship. She didn't always just tell me how wonderful I was. She also course corrected me when I needed to be course corrected. You know what I mean? And so, abandonment normally comes from, because we deal with that a lot in our culture because we don't have any fathers. We have no problem. Fathers have no problems leaving the woman with the children and using and then blaming her why he not around. So it's a lot of mommy issues, a lot of daddy issues, a lot of stuff that's buried deep in the darkness of your soul that you're not dealing with, that you're carrying over and saying, oh no, I'll work it out later. So you also have, when you don't deal with those traumas, rejection sensitivity. Overcoming the fear of rejection is vital for building self-confidence and establishing healthy and trusting relationships. You can't build nothing if you don't have no trust. You don't trust anybody. You know what I mean? You don't trust anybody. You're going to always be suspicious. Well, where you at? And where you going? And why didn't you call? And why you should be checking in? Checking in. What I'm checking in for? Well, what is this? No, checking in. Whew, no, we're not doing that. Why? Because there's no self-confidence. I remember the first thing I did before the divorce papers was dry, the ink was dry on the paper, I ran out. The first thing I did was I bought me a house. The second thing I did, I was already working, I already had a good job. Second thing I did, almost a year later, I bought me a car. And I didn't buy it to prove anything to anybody because I wasn't on that external thing. I did it to prove it to myself that I could. I did it to prove that I could take care of me because I had allowed somebody to take care of me like I was a baby and was incapable and couldn't do it for myself. But now it was time for me to prove, can I do it for me? Can I do it for myself? And this is when I came to the conclusion that from that day forward, that I would never allow anybody to do anything for me that I couldn't do for myself. If I can't do it for myself, I'm not going to let you do it for me either. If I can't send myself on a cruise, I'm not going to let you take me on a cruise. If I can't buy myself a diamond ring, I ain't going to let you buy me a diamond ring. I decided that I was not going to allow anybody to do anything for me that I couldn't do for myself. Because when you allow people to do things for you, that's when they feel like they can say what they want to say to you. They can treat you how they want to treat you. Because I did A, B, C, D, and E for you. They may not vocalize it. They may not say it in so many words, but their actions do prove it. And at some point, it's going to come out. And I remember having an argument, with my husband at the time, and I remember him saying those words to me. And it's like, for me, when I deal with stuff with people, I don't really too much focus on them. I focus on, what am I going to do with this? It's not about taking the lemons and making lemonade. It's about taking the lemons and then selling them back to the person that gave them to you. And then let them make the lemonade. You see what I'm saying? Because once you make the lemonade, it's gone. But if you keep selling the lemons to them that they're giving to you, you're going to always be able to, level up. And so I was just like, it was just really just out of left field, which let you knew that he had been thinking this thought for a long time. You're going to tell me I'm nothing without you? Ha! Really? When I'm the one who helped you get where you at? Okay, it's cool though. Okay. Because guess what? If I helped you get what you got, guess what? I can help myself. And so it manifests itself. These unresolved childhood traumas, they manifest themselves in so that when that seed grows, it grows in the strangest ways, and it comes up in ways you wouldn't believe. And so I had to build my own self-confidence because I knew I was capable and I knew I could do it. I knew that I could do it. So when you dealing with rejection, I just was talking to a girl today in the group, and she was saying that, just beautiful. Oh my gosh, she was just gorgeous. Her hair was gorgeous. Her complexion is just gorgeous. I love dark skin anyway. She was just beautiful. And so she was saying how, she couldn't get a job or whatever. And then she ended up like working for an international company because they don't really see race. They don't really see color and stuff like that. And I said, see how you don't really take rejection as rejection, but it was a way to redirect your life to where you were really supposed to be. She's in the IT field. She works from home, making six figures, and does very well for herself. So if you had not ever dealt with that, you would have never came to the conclusion. But when you have rejection sensitivity, then you internalize it. And when you internalize it, it messes with your self-confidence. If you don't have no self-confidence, how you going to be in a healthy relationship? Again, brokenness, when two halves don't make a whole. Insecurity, when you're dealing with personal insecurities, whether they're related to physical appearance, ability, self-worth, is necessary to build self-esteem in healthy relationships. And people be having low self-esteem, they be having low confidence. That's where codependency breeds. And you feed off of the other person. Deal with your stuff. Deal with it. So you won't have to end up like Will and Jada with a whole big mess. That's a mess. That's a mess. Because in order for you to go on the healing journey, you're going to have to do it alone. Do not deceive yourself for 1 minute to think that you're going to be able to go on that journey with another person and we're going to help each other out. Nope, you're not. It's going to end in disappointment and heartache because it's too, you, matter of fact, you don't even know how deep that thing goes. I remember being in church and they always be calling on me for stuff. Like, do I look like I feel like going up there saying the announcements? No. Did I ask you? Did I want to do the announcements? No. They was always asking me to do stuff. I'm trying to come in here and get the word and go home. Leave me alone. I'm already on ministry. I already do stuff. So one day, my elder, she said, who took your voice from you? I was like, oh my God, what? She said, who took your voice from you? Oh my God. I was like nobody had never like in my face just slam. I didn't have an answer. So I remember my son came over one day. He's like, Mom, I've been praying for you. And he was talking about like this child. And I was like, man, I don't really know this child. I have been praying for this little girl for years, years and years and years and years. I've been praying for this little girl. Every time I pray, God would show me this little girl. So when my son came to me and he said, Mom, I see this little girl. And I said, I've been praying for this little girl for years. I don't know who the little girl is. She was being abused. And she would run in the closet and she would hide. She would hide in the closet. So when my son came to me, I said, let me ask God who this little girl is. So I started praying. I said, God, who is this little girl you've been having me pray for all these years? I've been praying for this little girl for years. Who is this little girl? He said, the little girl is you. You the little girl. Oh my God. When he said I was the little girl, the tears, the deepness of that, the root of that thing. Oh my God. And I just was bawling, uncontrollable bawling. And I was just like, oh my God, that little girl, she was so scared, but she would run in that closet and she would go hide. And I could hear a voice saying, come out, telling her to come out, that she could come out, that it was okay. Oh, Lord have mercy. Oh, I'm about to get emotional. That day, he kept telling her to come out. And he said, I'm giving you back your voice that was stolen from you, the voice that was taken away from you. I'm giving you back your voice. Now I am probably in my 30s, probably. I think I'm maybe in my 30s, I believe. And I am praying for the little girl inside of me. Because what happens in trauma is that your development stops at the age of the trauma, and then you create a false persona to protect yourself. So you hide. That's why people call it a mask. It's not a literal mask. It's just a persona. And celebrities do it all the time. It's a persona. And you hide behind that persona because you don't really know who you are yet. So you really can't come forth. And so here I am, a grown woman, and my voice, the muzzle has been taken off because growing up, you couldn't talk. They wouldn't let you talk. You're to be seen and not heard. So it perpetuates itself. So that means that now that seed that's been planted, it's just growing and growing and growing. It's just continuing to grow. So whenever anybody would ask me to come to the front and be seen, and say something and do something. That's why I'm very unapologetic about this show, because I am expressing my voice, and I'm expressing the voice that God gave me, and can't nobody take it from me. You can't validate me, invalidate me, approve me, or unapprove me, or disapprove me. It has nothing to do with you. I'm going to tell my story. And whoever the story is for, that's who it's for. And whoever it isn't for, just keep scrolling. So just keep scrolling. Because you can deal with your traumas, and you can come out on the other side a healthy and a whole person. But healthy and whole is the goal that you have for yourself. Stop. It's like taking something dead and attaching yourself to it, because you don't want to go through this battle alone. So you're going to jeopardize the death of somebody else. When that man today, he told me, he said we used to have to pick up the dead bodies and carry them. Imagine carrying around a dead body. What's going to happen to you? Eventually you're going to be deteriorating as well. And that's what I see. I see people in relationships, they be all gung-ho in the beginning, and then all of that wears off. And what do you have? You have the true person who's broken, sometimes shattered, unhealthy, and now it's toxic. And everybody is miserable and unhappy. And now we're doing all these external things and looking for external validation and want somebody to approve us. And we need all of this, and we need followers, and we need attention, and woo woo woo. But when the lights are all off, you're in your bed, you're depressed, and you're crying. And you don't know what's wrong with you, because you're not dealing with your issues. You're hiding your insecurities, dealing with personal insecurities, physical, your self-esteem, your self-worth. You don't feel like you even deserve it. It affects your attachment styles, how you attach to people. Are you anxious? Do you avoid? Are you secure? Insecure? What? How are you forming these relationships? It affects your communication skills. Do you actively listen? Do you have empathy? Do you have conflict resolution? It's important to maintain positive relationships. People get into discussions and don't listen. They don't even be listening. You just talking and they just waiting for their turn. I didn't see an ounce of empathy, grace, and I'm just observing, and I'm saying to myself, these are the same people that want to have a healthy relationship, but don't have no empathy for nobody. Judgmental, harsh, and bitter. And she said that. She said that at the book signing. The lady, she asked her that. She said, how do you feel about all this backlash? And she said, it used to bother me, but it doesn't bother me no more. She said, because when I started doing the healing, it gave me more compassion. Yes, it will give you more compassion, and you will be less judgmental, and you will show more grace, and you will show more mercy, and you will show more love. All the things you need for a healthy relationship. But you throwing stones, but you want to be in a relationship with somebody, but you throwing stones. You have no empathy, no apathy, no sympathy, no understanding. I don't see any nowhere. I don't see no grace anywhere, but you want to be in a relationship. Are you serious? With all of that venom that y'all throwing at this human being who's being vulnerable. It takes courage to do it. She said they need a punching bag. That's what she said. She said they need a punching bag. She said, I find that when people have the same thing, because you're exposing them. This is a mirror that she's holding up to people, and they don't like it. When you tell your story, everybody ain't going to want to hear your story because it's going to hold up a mirror to them. I said, God, explain to me what's going on. She said they need a punching bag because they dealing with the same thing I'm dealing with. They just ain't dealing with it on the level that I'm dealing with it on. I said, my God, that's what it is. So yet you're going to have, so you think that you're going to have compassion and mercy and empathy and apathy and sympathy and all of this for this person that you're going to be with in this relationship, in this long-term relationship. You're not, because it don't work that way. It's not how it works. You have to get healed first. My doctor was like, in order for you to lose weight, you got to get healthy. As soon as your body gets healthy, you're going to drop the weight with no problem. The reason why you're overweight is because it's parts of you that's not healthy. Okay, well, thank you, Doc. Appreciate that. All these unhealthy people, but you want to be in a relationship. You got to have self-care and self-love. Focusing on self-care and self-love is essential for building a strong foundation of self-worth and the ability to give and receive love in a relationship. You don't even know there are different kinds of relationships. There are different kinds of love. You got a one-track mind. You don't have no listening skills. This woman done said 1,000 times, I have a connection, but not an attraction. Oh, no. Nobody heard that part. How do I know? Because I have the same. I can relate. I can have compassion. I can have understanding because I have the same. I have the same. You can have a connection with someone and not have an attraction. Easy. I'm confused. How can you have a connection but not an attraction? Why? Because you lack understanding, because you're not listening. But yet you're going to be in a relationship and you're going to be listening in your relationship. You're not. You're deceiving yourself. You're not. And I hear this stuff every day, over and over. Can you pray for me? Can you pray for me for this? Can you pray for me for that? Can you pray for me? Can you pray for me? Can you pray for me? And I'll be like, I can pray for you all day long, all night long, until you start dealing with your unresolved trauma. We're not even going to talk about codependency. Addressing codependency tendencies is important to establish a healthy sense of independence and autonomy. Oh my God. Independence and autonomy. I get so much flack about not wanting to be in a romantic relationship from, oh my God, from people. I get so much flack about it. But why? Because I'm independent. Autonomy means you have the freedom to move. I have the freedom to come and go as I please. My freedom is more important to me than being in a relationship. People cannot wrap their minds around that, but yet you want to be in a relationship and you got understanding. You got to be kidding me. You're delusional. Sorry. You're delusional. You can't even understand. You can't even understand. You have no understanding. And all that getting, get you some understanding. You gotta work this stuff out. This stuff has to be worked out. Your personal growth and goals, working on your personal growth, setting and achieving your individual goals, and having a sense of purpose can enhance one's readiness for a serious relationship. It is the truth. Oh my God, it is the truth. When I started working on myself and, getting to know myself and the things I liked and the things that I did, and that's another thing. People are so indecisive. Well, what do you want? Well, I don't know. What? My men friends, they laugh at me. They be like, "You the only woman I know that can go in the store, see what you want, get it, and come right out." Yep, because I'm decisive. I scan the store. Oh, I like that blouse. Whoop, let me get that. Oh, I like them pants. Oh, let me get that. Oh, I like that. Oh, get that. Okay, come on, get that. Let's go. I'm decisive. I don't have to be in here for 5 hours to try to figure out what I want, because I spent the time with myself and I know myself and I know what I want. I have a sense of purpose. I have a sense of purpose now like I've never had in my life. There is nothing more fulfilling. Oh my God. There's nothing more fulfilling is when you step into your purpose. And then not only did I step into my purpose, I'm writing a book right now. It's going to be out this week actually. And it was something that that God was bringing to my attention, and it was something that he told me when I moved here. When I moved here and I walked in here, he said, "Don't get comfortable." I was like, "Okay." Guess what I did? Got comfortable. And so I had to then come out of my comfort zone. And coming out of my comfort zone, that meant not being in the background anymore, chilling out back there. That meant coming up to the front. That means coming on social media. That means sharing my story. And he said, don't worry about followers. You just be obedient. Just be obedient. And it opens doors. Doors I don't even be thinking about. It just opens doors. And so, because I'm thinking it's going to accomplish one thing, but it's accomplishing other things that I didn't even realize it was going to accomplish. And so, like, this is major for me. It's major for Dante. Dante is a behind the scenes type person too. Dante come on here, he share. It's major. Dante was like the quiet kid. He wouldn't talk to you. He wouldn't share. You ask him a question about what's wrong, trying to get to the bottom of what's happening so you can help him. He'd just get up and walk on out the door. You just be like, well, I can't do nothing with that. You can't say nothing. Can't help you. You know what I mean? So this is major to my growth. That this shows that once I started dealing with my traumas, I started growing leaps and bounds. And the more I started growing, the more my self-esteem as an adult, not just your grandmother telling you're wonderful and smart and intelligent and great, but just knowing, a knowing within me, a knowing within myself, to the point where I could look at myself in the mirror and say, "You are amazing. You're amazing." Coming to an awareness of yourself and stepping into your identity and stepping in and being comfortable with it. I mean, 100% comfortable, period. You know what I'm saying? And it's not something that you really see a lot of people being naturally who they are. I am naturally who I am. And what you see is what you get. I'm the same way in person. If you see me in person, it's going to be the same way. I'm not one of them people that switch up whenever they be around this person or that person or whatever. No, I am the same person across the board. I don't care where I go or who I'm around. I do not change who I am for anybody. Okay? I'm me. So this can affect your individual communication style. People who have experienced trauma may struggle with expressing their emotion and needs clearly, or may have difficulty understanding others. And that is a identifier. This is a huge identifier. When people have a hard time communicating, it is normally because they have not dealt with their trauma, because they struggle with expressing their emotions. They don't know how to say what they mean. They don't have the courage to tell you no. You know how difficult it is for people to say no. My daughter said, "Mom, people always tell you yes." I said, "No, they're not really telling me yes. They just don't know how to say no. So I just be asking for stuff, and I know they're not going to say no." They not. They be like, "Yes." I be like, "Okay, thank you." And they just have trouble expressing their emotion and their needs clearly. And they have difficulty understanding. Every single person that threw a stone at this woman got unresolved trauma. Why? Because they don't have no understanding. They have difficulty understanding other people. When you have compassion and you have these experiences and you've gone through your healing processes, you have compassion for people. You have patience with people. You have mercy with people. That's what happened when I first got divorced and God was like, I want you to pray for your ex-husband. I was like, God, I don't know how you up there running heaven, but down here, we just don't act like that down here, God. I just don't know what you're saying to me. He said, pray for him. I was like, woo, okay, in that tone, I guess I'm going to have to pray. The more I prayed for him, the more compassion I began to have for him. You can't hate somebody and have compassion at the same time, because two things can't operate in the same space at the same time. That's physics. Can't happen. The more I prayed, the more compassion. The more you go through your healing process, and you start to see your ugly, and you start to see the stuff that's you unearth worms and stuff coming, not literal worms, but just analogy. You will have more understanding and more patience with people and more grace with people. It is more people throwing stones at this woman. To me, it just shows me that, number one, you're not ready to be in a relationship. You have no understanding. You have no understand, and you ain't even trying to understand on a soundbite. That's why I said, let me read the book. I'm going to read both the books. I have Will's book and I have her book, because what happens is, when you read a book, it allows you to just really get more sides of the story, and it allows you to just really see when you're in a relationship with how these breakdowns happen, and how you start to see a pattern emerge. Like, I started reading Will's book, and immediately I saw the trauma. Soon as he started writing the book, the trauma came right up, because that's what happens when you write a memoir. Those memories start digging, things start coming up immediately. The first chapter in the book, his trauma showed right up. I said, there it is, right there. When his father smacked his mama, trauma that traumatized him. What was the second thing that came up? Fear. What was the third thing that happened? Because what happens? The trauma creates a wound, and that wound now needs a covering. That covering is your false self. That's your defense. What did he do? He created a false self. It's right there. He created a false self. And I said, man, he ain't waste no time getting to it. He created a false self. It's called soul murder. I'm writing a book too. This book gonna take longer, because I got to do a lot of research. I got to dig in my own life some more. And it's called soul murder. It is when your soul, when you murder your own soul to be somebody that you're not. It literally kills the true you. It kills the true self. Or sometimes it traps the true self, imprisons the true self. And then you create a false self. And that's the false self that shows up in the world. And you never, matter of fact, Bradshaw, remember Bradshaw? Maybe y'all might be too young to remember, but what is his first name? But Bradshaw used to talk about your inner child. He used to come on the Oprah show, and he used to talk about that inner child, healing your inner child. That's what unresolved trauma is. Healing that inner child, allowing that inner child to grow up to where you are. Because most of the time we're dealing with people that are in adult bodies, but they are still children on the inside. So if you don't heal that inner child, how are you going to have an adult relationship? You're broken and sometimes shattered, depending on what your trauma was. That's another thing I learned. Trauma is different things for different people. I used to always think of trauma as sexual, but it's not. It could be your daddy smacking your mama, and you seeing that and you feeling helpless to do anything about it. Hey, yes, John Bradshaw. Yes. Remember, he used to always talk about healing your inner child. It is important for you to do to do that work. Because once that inner child, and what happens is it's not like once you start doing it, that's when you start growing leaps and bounds. So, okay, say if you 30 and you start doing the work at 30, because remember, I said the golden era is 20 to 30. You should be by yourself doing the work, finding out your identity, your purpose, your calling, your mandate, your gifts, your talent, what you like, what you don't like, where you're going, what's your vision, what's your mission. 10 years. You got 10 years to do that. Then connect yourself to whoever it is, because now you got you built a solid foundation of knowing who you are. Two halves cannot, two broken people cannot make a whole. I'm telling you, I listen to this stuff, I see this stuff constantly all the time, and it breaks my heart. Sometimes I get off the phone and I just go to God and I just cry, because I'm like, God, these people, whew, they just don't get it. They just don't get it. I didn't have anybody. Once my grandmother passed away, my aunt and my uncle, all the people in the world that loved me, they're gone. A lot of this stuff I had to find out for myself. I had to learn this on my own. So when I come here, I'm sharing with you my experiences. I'm sharing with you the lessons that I have learned, the things that have caused me to grow leaps and bounds within my own self. And when you get to that level of freedom, you don't really want to be. That's just me, though. You know what I mean? Because I was like that even before then. You know what I mean? And so it's really important that we foster the things in ourselves that we really want, do unto others as we have them do unto us. And this is why people are afraid to share their stories. They're afraid to share. I'm not going to be able to get to everything because I'm already like over the time, 8:16. But I just really wanted to come here and share with you that we are witnessing brokenness and people trying to repair the brokenness inside the relationship instead of doing the work before they get into the relationship, so that you can have a healthy, and we need to set those healthy examples. Another reason we struggle is because we don't have no examples. We don't have any examples of any healthy relationships. So we got to grow up, and we got to literally get in the dirt. I've written 5 books, and when you write a book, it peels you like an onion. It brings up things you'll be like, I thoroughly forgot about that. And when I write my memoir, Lord have mercy, I'm probably gonna get delivered on to the stratosphere because I've been through so much, and I want the generation that's younger than me. I don't want them to go through the same thing. You don't have to go through your own mistakes. Learn from my lessons. That's why I come here and share it. I'm not coming here giving no relationship advice. I'm not a therapist. I am here to share with you my experiences and the lessons that I have learned so you won't have to go through it. My grandmother, she would tell me, you ain't got to make your own mistakes. Learn from the mistakes of other people, because that's the generational crap that's being passed down. That's the reason why when you get ready to go do something, you'll be like, what is holding me back? Those unresolved issues that you're not dealing with is weighing you down. When I was a flight attendant, when you get on the plane, you may not notice this, but they count the people. The flight attendant, she goes down the aisle and she counts the people on each side, because there has to be a balance. Before she'll put people off the plane, before they'll take bags off the plane, they'll put people off the plane. Your life has to be a balance so that you can take off, so that you can soar in your life. Instead of keep asking yourself, why isn't this working? And why doesn't that work? And why is this thing not working? And why every time I try to do this, you keep trying to take off and then you crash? You keep trying to take off because you're weighted down with mommy issues, and I'm thinking to myself, Like out of all things for you to name your book, you named it Worthy. My God. So, and I be telling people this all the time. I be like, so and so, these celebrities, I be telling them, she got problems. She got this type. Taraji P. I said something ain't right with Taraji. Toward the end of the show, when Empire was about to go off, I saw a change in her. I said something, she going through something. Something ain't right. Next thing you know, she come on and do a show about mental health. When you have been in the trenches and you've gone through it and you've come out on the other side, you recognize it in other people. Y'all are using this woman as a punching bag because you don't want to deal with your own trauma. And she's holding up the mirror to you. This ain't about her husband. This is about her. This is about your journey that you have to take. And your life depends on it. And so does your children. Because all that stuff bleeds over into your children. Why are you frustrated all the time? Why are you always frustrated? What is frustration? Inner anger? What are you angry about? Do you even question and ask yourself, why am I angry? Because you're angry at something, some seed that's buried on the inside of you that you have not dealt with, that you need to do. Every book I write is some kind of way is about trauma. My latest book that's coming out any day now is called Throw Away Your Couch, Come Out of Your Comfort Zone, and Leap to Freedom. Those are commands. And it's a branding of a situation that I had to go through for myself. I had to throw away, the literal couch, the couch mentality, the getting comfortable where you're literally dying and not doing all that you're supposed to be doing. You're just doing the bare minimum. And then once you do that, then you can leap. You can leap. You're literally festering in a prison that's self-inflicted. And you're wondering why you're not making progress. You're not making progress and you're not making strides and you're putting forth all this effort and you're getting nowhere because you're weighted down because you don't want to deal and face your own traumas. You don't want to face your own self, but you want to hide in a relationship and you want to have expectations and dump that stuff all on somebody else. It's not fair. It's not fair. It's not fair to you. It's not fair to that person. And it is not fair to your children, if you have any. You have to deal with this stuff. And I talk about this all the time. I talk about trauma all the time. It's because I had to deal with it myself. I was traumatized in ways that I didn't realize it. I talked to a man today who had PTSD. I don't have it that bad, but when you grow up in the projects around killing and murder and people jumping out windows, people getting pushed out windows, and you walk into school and there's dead bodies and drive-by shootings and all of that every single day, you don't think that's going to have an effect on you? Yes, it does. Your environment does have an effect on you. It doesn't have to break you, but it does have an effect on you. And so I'm very serious about what it is that I come here and I share. I'm very serious about it because I want people to be, I want you to have more than happiness. I want you to have joy. See, happiness is predicated on what's happening externally. That's why it's called happiness. Whatever is happening, good or bad, is going to determine whether you're going to be happy. No, I want you to have joy. Joy comes from the inside. And it's not predicated upon whether somebody like you. It's not predicated upon whether they validate you or invalidate you. It's not predicated on anything external. You have to learn how to live your life from the inside out. And when you learn how to live your life from the inside out, the things that people say or do or don't say or do or whatever they're going to do, it does not affect you. It doesn't do anything. That's why you hear me say I'm unstoppable, because nothing stops this train. Not what you think about me, whether you like me, God bless you. If you don't like me, God bless you. If the verdict ain't in, God bless you. God bless you. In all them scenarios, it don't matter because nothing is going to stop me from fulfilling my purpose. Nothing is going to stop the mandate, the call, the gift, nothing, because I have done the work. I've done the work. And when you do the work, that's when you get the reward. It don't have nothing to do with anybody else. It all ends and it all begins with you. I just don't want you to drag somebody along and it's not time. It's not time. At least get to your destination first. At least get there first. People are going through so much heartache and they're going through so much pain. And men, they just suffer in silence. They don't even tell nobody. They just suffer in silence. They just talk to their boys and maybe they get the good advice and maybe they tell them bad advice. Most of the time it's bad advice. But most men, their answer is just sex. They just gonna go have sex. That's their answer to everything. Let's just go have sex. Normally when you see a man that's promiscuous and having a lot of sex, and women too, it's because they burying it. They're trying to hide it. They're inoculating themselves with it. It's time to stop inoculating yourself. It's time to just stand flat-footed and deal with it, whatever it is. And so, yeah, y'all got a little spanking today. It's all good. See, mommies have to give out medicine. And sometimes medicine be hard to swallow, but it be good for you. It'd be good for you. I just want you guys to have joy. And I want you to have healthy relationships. And I want you to come out of that dysfunction, especially in our culture. I want you to come out of that dysfunction. And I want you to not, deal with it. I want you to deal with it so that you can foster trust. But we don't trust each other. There's no way in the world. I don't really know the whole story with what's going on with those two, whatever. But I'm going to err on the side of support. I'm gonna always support because I don't know the whole story. So I'm going to support. I'm not going to throw stones. I'm not going to judge because if it was me, I wouldn't want nobody to throw stones and be judging me. And that's all I'm saying is show some compassion, give some grace, give some mercy, give some understanding, give all the things that it takes to have a healthy relationship. I love you guys. Y'all know I love you. And I will be back next Sunday. And Dante coming back one of these days. I don't know when he's coming back. I still have some points I wanted to make, but I've already went over my time. And I pray and I hope that I've said something that will give you something to think about. I'm so trying not to get emotional. I'm so trying not to get it. I love y'all too. I really do. I do. And it's my job. It's my job. I am from an older generation. And it's my job to pour into the younger ladies that's coming up, into the younger ladies, because I'm really tired of y'all getting dragged too and getting mistreated and stuff, because a lot of people, they just have good hearts and they want to do good and don't understand why they keep getting mistreated and stuff like that, because that's the stuff that you attracted. When you start dealing with your stuff, you're going to attract a whole different kind of man. Hey, but I'll see you guys. I'll see you guys next Sunday. And you guys be safe out there. Be